Gaul is the name the Romans gave to the regions inhabited by an Indo-European people, the Celts. The Gallic territories south of the Alps, in Latin Gallia Cisalpina, had already been annexed by the Romans during the 3rd century BC. During the Second Punic War, these Gauls rebelled against the Romans by joining Hannibal, but they were eventually subdued. North of the Alps, the Gauls populated present-day France, Belgium, and parts of Switzerland and Germany. Later, the Romans subdued the southeast of modern France, forming the province called Gallia Narbonensis, but most of the Gallic territories remained independent. In 60 BC, the young Julius Caesar offered himself as a mediator between the two most powerful men in the Roman Republic at the time, Marcus Licinius Crassus and Gnaeus Pompey Magnus. Crassus had defeated the rebellious slaves led by Spartacus, while Pompey had pacified the Mediterranean Sea by defeating the pirates who plagued it. This three-way alliance was known as the First Triumvirate. Caesar obtained the consulship in 59 BC. When his one-year term was about to expire, he realized that his enemy, Lucius Domitius, was maneuvering to end his political and military career by stripping him of the armies he commanded as consul. Caesar summoned Crassus and Pompey to Lucca and convinced them to outmaneuver Domitius by running for consul again. Caesar offered to send soldiers to Rome to vote for them in exchange for having his mandate over the provinces extended for 5 more years as proconsul or governor. Thus, Caesar gained control of Gallia Narbonensis, Gallia Cisalpina, and Illyricum, commanding 4 legions granted by the Senate, plus others he funded himself, ultimately commanding 10. Caesar scandalized many by forming an entire legion composed of Gauls, to whom he eventually granted citizenship, even appointing many Gauls to the Senate. Caesar needed provinces with potential for conquest because he had amassed significant debt during his political ascent and was ambitious to become as great as Alexander the Great. The opportunity for military glory came in 58 BC when the Gallic tribes of the Helvetii, pressured by Germanic peoples, invaded the territory of the Aedui, another Gallic tribe allied with Rome. Caesar sent his legions to aid this ally, but did not want to end the war until all Gallic territories were pacified. As in other conflicts, the Romans took advantage of the divisions among neighboring peoples to gradually gain ground. In the first year of the conflict, Caesar helped the Aedui by defeating the Helvetii at the Battle of Bibracte. After this victory, several Gallic tribes allied with the Romans and requested help against a Germanic tribe, the Suebi, whom they accused of invading Gallic territories after being hired as mercenaries. Their leader, King Ariovistus, was defeated by Caesar at the Battle of the Vosges. The following year, the fighting moved north, where the Belgic Gauls challenged Roman power. Caesar considered them the bravest of all the Celts because of their constant conflict with the Germans and their minimal trade contact with the Romans. The Romans eventually pacified the area. After wintering in camps, as was customary in antiquity, problems arose the following year in the northwestern coast during Caesar's absence. Decimus Brutus, a future assassin of Caesar, led the Roman fleet specifically built for the campaign and defeated the Veneti in the naval battle of Morbihan, enabling Roman control over the region. Meanwhile, Germanic tribes crossed the Rhine and harassed the Romans, even destroying a Roman camp and massacring about 6,000 soldiers. Caesar eventually defeated them, but decided to demonstrate Roman might by launching a raid across the Rhine, something no Roman had done before. He built a temporary bridge over the Rhine to attack the Germans in their own territory. Although they did not engage in battle and fled, many were slaughtered. Caesar granted a 3-day truce, but when he felt it had not been respected, he resumed hostilities, even arresting the Germanic envoys who came to explain and negotiate. This act was seen by some in Rome as a war crime. Cato, Caesar's political rival, called for his extradition to the Germans for violating the ius gentium, law of nations. Suetonius described Caesar as follows: "He missed no opportunity to wage war, even if unjust or dangerous, attacking without reason both allies and savage enemies, so much so that the Senate once decreed a commission to investigate the Gallic situation, and some senators even proposed handing him over to the enemy. But since his campaign succeeded, he received more and longer public honors than any previous general." Next, Caesar led an expedition to a place no Roman army had ever reached, across the English Channel to Britannia, modern-day Great Britain, then also inhabited by Celtic tribes. The expedition was a failure. The Romans were caught in a storm that damaged many of their ships, and they found no great riches. Still, Caesar's fame and glory grew. Many in Rome believed Britannia to be a myth. Caesar wanted to explore this island he had heard about from the Gauls, showing that beyond his ambition for conquest, he had a kind of scientific curiosity. This is reflected in his work, Commentarii de Bello Gallico, Commentaries on the Gallic War, in which he describes the island geographically and details the customs of its peoples. His writings are our only direct source on some Gallic and Germanic tribes, as they did not use writing. Caesar concluded that the Gauls could be conquered and civilized, but the Germans were too barbaric. This war is a clear example that history is written by the victors, as only Caesar's version survives, based on reports he periodically sent to the Senate. Therefore, some data may be manipulated. Caesar tried to appear impartial by always writing in the third person. Nonetheless, some Romans criticized him. Suetonius said, "Asinius Pollio believes these commentaries are not always accurate or truthful, as Caesar placed too much faith in his legate's reports and deliberately or forgetfully altered the truth of his own deeds, and he thinks they should be reviewed and corrected." The following year, Caesar returned to Britannia with better planning. The Romans advanced along the Thames and defeated a British leader, but within weeks withdrew back to Gaul after establishing tribute payments. During Caesar's absence, many Gallic tribes united in a rebellion that destroyed an entire legion at the Battle of Aduatuca. Caesar vowed not to bathe or cut his hair until he avenged this defeat, which he achieved a few months later after the winter break. The Gallic War continued with minor conflicts, a calm before the storm. The Gallic leader, Vercingetorix, managed to unite most of the Gallic peoples in a final alliance to expel Caesar from Gaul. Even the Aedui, the Roman allied tribe that sparked the war, joined Vercingetorix. However, many Gauls also served in Caesar's army. The Battle of Alesia in 52 BC, where Caesar displayed brilliant military strategy, was the climax of the Celto-Roman conflict. Vercingetorix fortified himself in Alesia, hoping that external Gallic forces would break the Roman siege. However, Caesar shocked everyone by building a double line of fortifications, one facing inward toward Alesia and the other outward to fend off external attacks. Roman defenses included towers, palisades, water-filled ditches, and spikes. The Gauls failed to break the siege, and Vercingetorix ultimately surrendered. Despite the Roman victory at Alesia, isolated Gallic rebellions continued for another 2 years. The Gallic Wars were a brutal and bloody 8-year conflict, summarized by Suetonius as follows. Caesar reduced the provincial status of all of Gaul, lying between the Pyrenees, the Alps, and the Cevennes, and between the rivers Rhine and Rhone, covering a perimeter of about 3.2 million paces, roughly 4,700 kilometers, except for allied and meritorious cities, and imposed an annual tribute of 40 million sesterces. He was the first Roman to cross the Rhine on a bridge he built and inflicted terrible defeats on the Germans. He also attacked the Britons, previously unknown, and after defeating them, demanded money and hostages. Amidst so many successes, he suffered only 3 setbacks. Later, Solinus summarized Caesar's military life as follows. The dictator Caesar shone among generals, or rather, among all men. Under his command, 1,192,000 enemies were slain, for he did not count those he defeated in civil wars as enemies. He fought 52 pitched battles. Plutarch and Appian agree with the figure of 1 million Gauls killed in battle against Caesar, with another million enslaved. Pliny the Elder judged Caesar thus when speaking of the Gallic War and the subsequent civil war. I will not glorify such great evil. In fact, it was unnecessary for humanity, and he condemned himself by his success. Indeed, Caesar's glory and lust for power would eventually cost him his life. That's it for today, but don't worry, we're just getting started. Thanks for joining this historical ride, and get ready for more fun facts and stories in the next video. See you soon, time travelers.